And this is lab 4 that we're going to start on the exploring chemical and physical changes. So here we go, starting with activity 1. I have my test tubes already on the rack, and we're going to begin with the using our 10 milliliter granule cylinder. We need to add 2 milliliters of the hydrochloric acid. So get that. And before I started this video, I also had already did the prep that was required. And the prep consists of making the yellow dye and the blue dye water. And I've already pre-measured my sugar and salt and the aluminum strips and got all my supplies together. So I am going to measure out now the 2 milliliters. Right. We will pour this in the test tube. Also remember to have our, and as I can show you guys, here's also my wash station that I have, room temperature, plenty of water, and I have everything pretty much set up as needed. Because we'll have to rinse out And what I've done to help to assist to dry out is just get paper towels that are able to twist in and make it easier to reach out to the bottom to dry it out. Next is to add 2 milliliters of the sodium carbonate solution. And this will go into your second test tube. Using the same process to rinse out as well. Alright, and as we can look at both, we're going to record the data for both of them. Now I want you to use a thermometer to measure the temperature of the hydrochloric acid. Okay, so we're going to set our thermometer in there. And we're just going to give that a little moment. And same process with rinsing off your thermometer. And you're going to also get the temperature of the sodium carbonate. Okay, we're going to rinse this off. Now we're going to combine the hydrochloric acid and the carbonate solution together. And as you can see, it's still clear in color, but it did fizz and get bubbly. And we're going to check the temperature. And it wants us to go ahead and give it a minute. And you want to make sure to document your observations. and it's still staying clear.
Detectives know this is no accident. This is a homicide.
Okay, now we're done with activity 1. So what we're going to do is rinse and dry the test tubes, dispose of the solution, and to clean off our thermometer. All right, so we're going to move on to activity 2. First it says to add 10 milliliters of water to 1 test tube with the cylinder. So we're going to go ahead and add that water in there.
He brings Carrie and Michelle back to the station and separates them.
When we take statements from witnesses, we don't want stories blended together because people from different perspectives remember different things.
Carrie, tell me what you've done. Did you look close?
Okay, so add the 10 milliliter of water to 1 test tube.
Carrie and had a romantic, intimate relationship. We're actually living together in an apartment.
Now it says to add the 0.3 grams of the pre-rate sodium polyacrylate to the 2nd test tube. So for this, I am going to weigh out using my scale.
Carrie says that hours later, Michelle called to say Devin hadn't arrived.
What do you mean? No. She said she was going to be with you.
And the two friends began to worry.
We were calling the hospital, see if anybody got brought in, checking with the police departments for accidents. And they went out driving around with Devin.
Okay, we're going to put this into the 2nd test tube. Which will be this powdery solution. then you were going to record what both of them look like, which the more white and powdery where the water is clear. Okay, we're going to measure the temperature of the water. So we'll go ahead and set our thermometer in there. Okay. And we're going to record our temperature. Then now we're going to add the water to the test tube containing the sodium polyacrylate, and then we're going to swirl to mix and insert the thermometer. All right, we inserted our thermometer. And it says to observe for a minute and record the final color of the product and any additional observations. I would show that on there. Which is like a slushy kind of reaction. I'm kind of swirling in here trying to get really what I would call this type of consistency. Put this right here and I'm going to clean off the thermometer. Okay. We will clean out where the water originated from and dry out the test tube. This particular test tube I'm going to just show a close-up, especially for record. And also kind of put it from my observation. This particular test tube I will throw away, but I'm leaving it out just for my observation. I'm getting a new one. Okay, and we're going to move on now to activity 3. All right, so now we're going to add 2 milliliters of the copper sulfate solution.
Michelle says, just days ago, they fought so violently that Devin ended up injured with a knife.
Make sure you see that color of the solution. Okay, and we're going to add this to the test tube.
And wound up going to the emergency room at the local hospital.
And we will clean this out.
Could Devin's death have been another argument they went too far? Investigators decide they need to uncover more about their teenage life.
The next thing it says is to add 2 milliliters of the sodium carbonate solution into the second test tube. Okay, and you're going to want to record your data as well. All right, and we're going to check the temperature for both of these solutions.
When we looked at Evan's body, she had bruises, she had scratches, and she actually had fingerprints on her hands where somebody was holding her arms. Evan was apparently a very petite person. Slight build, and Terry was certainly a larger framed girl, much physically larger and stronger than Devin.
and the temperature of the second.
We lived in a small apartment when we bought it. Occasionally there was, you know, there was a lot of noise coming from upstairs where the girls live, which is unusual for an apartment to disturb the bar. It's usually the other way around.
It seems the argument Carrie said she had the night Devin disappeared was much more than a love quarrel. Then, a neighbor tells detectives she saw something alarming as she walked past the girl.
All right, the next thing that we're going to do is to combine the two together. We're going to just swirl it, see what happens, and then we're going to check the temperature of both. So as we can see, it looks like it's getting a little fuzzy, a little bubbly, I'm sorry, and kind of thickening up. So we're going to go ahead and put the thermometer in there.
When we searched Devin and Carrie's apartment, the first thing we noticed that everything was in disarray.
And to record the data.
Over things out of place.
And when they pulled back the shower curtain, what they discovered stops them in their tracks.
It was just a horrible way to go. A good possibility that our homicide happened right in the apartment.
And I'll do a close-up again for better observation. You can kind of see as I mix it. Okay. So we're going to start with the thermometer and we're going to clean everything up.
Through the Subaru share the love event, we show them just how far one can go. Over 100 national parks protected. More than 50,000 animals rescued. Nearly 2 million meals delivered. Over 1,800 wishes granted. That's $140 billion donated to charity by Subaru and retailers.
The blue seems to be a little harder to rinse off. Of the test tube. So I want to make sure I do a thorough clean of it. And I'm actually, because it is a little harder to clean off, getting another test tube because the residue is still in there. Good deal. So now we're moving on to activity 4. So for this particular activity, we'll be using this tea candle right over here. We're going to record the color of it. Alright, so we just need to light this tea. Just observe the color, and we're going to light the tea candle. And it says just to observe the tea candle for a minute and to record the final color and any other additional observations. So we're going to let this burn for a minute. And I can show you just the process of it burning and what we're actually looking for. It's what our end result is, if there's any changes, and if the changes are actually a physical change that's happening or just a chemical change. And while we're almost done observing this, there's a part 2 to this activity, which we're going to place a small ice cube on this aluminum dish right here. And we'll be using the forceps as well. And we're going to hold the aluminum dish over the flame and observe for a minute, recording the final color of the ice cube. And just indicate the if anything's physically changed, or if anything happens within that 1 minute.